Hello, ladies, and welcome back to Boots Over Heels, a Southern Grace clothing podcast with me, your host, Jade, based here at Southern Grace's headquarters in Dallas, Texas. Today, on this episode, we have a story. It's about a wedding, a guest, a tattoo, and a pair of cowboy boots. Welcome to this week's episode, Bailey's Blue Boots. Okay, so here's the story. Bailey is 26, and she lives in Austin with her husband, Danny. She has had a scar on her forearm for the last 3 years after a particularly terrible oven burn when she brushed her arm against the broiling rack in the oven. She hates the scar because it healed puffy and pink, and it created a sharp contrast on her skin that was so obvious that in some of her wedding photos from a few months ago, their photographer had to airbrush it out. I'm sure you guys know the type of scar I'm talking about. She tried oils, lotions, patches, to no avail, so lately she had been wondering about simply covering it with a tattoo. She had never had a tattoo before, but she'd tossed the idea around in the past, especially when she was in college. She had always been too unsure about it, though, but if it was to cover the scar, she decided, why not? She got a bit excited about it. She thought it would be the best time to work with a healing tattoo because it was spring and she didn't spend that much time outside or swimming or in the heat. She also had some extra Christmas money and she thought she could put that towards it. So, why not? She set up an appointment with a tattoo artist that she found on Instagram. She was finally going to cover the scar. She thought about reaching out to her friend Teresa first because Bailey was going to be a bridesmaid for her wedding in the next couple weeks. But in the end, Bailey decided she could always ask for forgiveness or she could wear a shawl during the ceremony if it really became a problem. A tattoo would be prettier than the scar for photos anyway, right? Right. So she went ahead with it. She warned her husband, but she did tell him that she did not care if he liked it or not because it was what she wanted. Go girls, you do what makes you happy. Don't let any boys stop you. And she went to get tattooed on a free Thursday afternoon. She showed up with headphones and some downloaded movies on her phone, but her tattoo artist, Emily, was talkative and fun. They talked about Emily's kids who were having some behavior issues in school and about their dogs, and after a couple hours, it was over. Bailey now had a floral piece on her forearm that perfectly covered the scar. It was like it had never been there. Bailey was in love. It looked so much better than the scar that she used to hate, and the flowers were delicate and feminine. Her tattoo artist took a ton of pictures and videos for her Instagram and shared them with Bailey, who immediately shared them on her own social media, exclaiming her excitement over her new art. And she drove home to show her husband, who was almost as excited as she was now that he got to see the art too. And then she got a DM on her photo on her Instagram story. For a moment, she worried it was her friend Teresa, upset about the ink on her bridesmaid so close to her wedding. But it was actually from Addison. And Bailey was having a hard time not being offended by her message. Who is Addison, you ask? Well, Addison entered Bailey and Danny's friend group about 2 years ago when Addison started dating Danny's childhood friend, Ryan. Whoa, that's a lot of names. Danny and Bailey met and started dating their first year of college, and Bailey met Danny's best friend, Ryan. They all became close, and Ryan started dating Addison their last year, right before they graduated, moved to different cities, and Bailey and Danny got married. So far, they didn't know Addison all that well. She joined the friend group fairly late, and they all lived pretty far away from each other now. After graduating, Bailey made Addison a member of her bridal party when she married Danny, but Addison didn't attend several of the events, and when she did, she was mostly quiet and just hung out in the background. The attempt to get to know her better fell flat, but Bailey still thought it was nice to include Addison and to have her support on her wedding day in the bridesmaids' dresses that she had chosen, pale baby blue. Blue was both Bailey and Danny's favorite color. After Bailey and Danny's wedding, Addison and Ryan also got engaged. They announced that they were going to be married very soon, with only 15 to 20 guests. Ryan asked Danny to be his best man, which was touching. Bailey and Danny thought it was a bit strange to purposefully plan a wedding on such a short timeline if you could avoid it, since it just seemed stressful. But to each their own. The wedding would be small and held outdoors in the summertime, which seemed nice if a bit hot. Bailey also thought it was a little odd that Addison had snubbed her as a bridesmaid, but it was a small wedding, so Bailey dismissed it. But then the direct message from Addison commenting on her photo of her new tattoo. The message read, "Hey, cute tattoo. Could you please make sure this is covered for our wedding, though? It's not our vibe. Thanks." Bailey was having trouble not feeling offended. She had expected this response from her friend Teresa, who was getting married in a few weeks because Bailey was a bridesmaid, not from Addison, who had snubbed her for the bridesmaid position for a wedding that was months away, and she hadn't even received an invitation for it yet. In fact, she didn't even know when their specific wedding date was, but already she'd been told that she couldn't show her tattoo, which was still red on her arm, so recent and new. Bailey told her husband about the situation, since she wasn't sure if she was overreacting. Sure, it was commonplace for the bride to request a certain dress code from guests and to request the bridesmaid dresses, but Bailey wasn't a bridesmaid. That had been made clear to her. She was just a guest. The wedding was going to be small, so maybe Addison was worried about the pictures? While understandable, Bailey hadn't even been invited to the wedding yet, so Addison probably could have requested this of her, not on the day she got her tattoo. She probably could have done it later. Ultimately, Bailey decided that while it was a rude thing to ask, she would ignore it, since Addison was probably just feeling a little controlling about her wedding, and Bailey understood that. She'd wear something respectful, but appropriate for the weather, and no one would pay any attention to it on the day. She was sure of it. Unfortunately, though, her husband Danny had taken it more seriously and reached out to Ryan, telling him that Bailey was offended by Addison's message. Oh no. Before Bailey knew it, Ryan had made a group chat with Bailey, Danny, Addison, and Ryan. Ryan thought they should all have a meeting to deal with this sudden tension between the girls. Bailey was a bit uncomfortable because she was planning on letting it go, and she didn't really want to talk about it. But she asked what time would work best, and she asked if it would be better for just the girls to speak, since she didn't want to make the boys, who were best friends, uncomfortable. Addison jumped in and said that she thought the boys were necessary because Bailey couldn't talk without a mediator because she had run to her husband to handle her issues. Bailey was taken aback and offended, but she responded by clarifying exactly what had happened. She'd gotten a tattoo. She'd asked her husband if she was overreacting. That's all she had done. Again, Bailey asked what time would work, and she asked a request. Let's keep things as civil as possible. Addison responded back by saying it was Bailey who was being uncivil and that it wasn't rude to have an opinion. She also said she didn't see why they had to have a conversation at all, since she didn't want to be friends with Bailey anyway. Addison came on super strong there, and Bailey was really put off now. The chat was silent for about an hour until Ryan popped in to apologize to Bailey about the tattoo situation. Clearly, he had talked to Addison because she also jumped into the chat and explained that it was half Ryan's fault since he said she could text Bailey about it. And she also said that Bailey could wear whatever she wanted to the wedding, despite her initial request. Bailey wasn't quite sure what to do after that. The strange apology felt a bit forced, and now she wasn't sure at all what to wear because if she didn't cover her arms, it was actively against the bride's wishes, and it would be a little rude. It would be a statement. But on the other hand, she liked her new tattoo, and she didn't want to cover it just because someone didn't like it. The wedding was revealed to take place in late June, though, so Bailey decided not to think about it at the moment since she was more concerned with all of the sudden tension between the girls. She didn't want things to be tense with her friend Ryan, and she especially didn't want Danny and his childhood best friend to have issues. A couple days later, she decided to reach out personally to Addison and start with a clean slate. She texted Addison and apologized for any hurt feelings and asked that they start over with a movie night or a game night maybe. Her message was left on read for about an hour, and Bailey started to get nervous, but she still wasn't expecting Addison's response. Honestly, the text read, "I'm not ready to forgive you yet. I wore that horrible blue dress for your wedding day, even though I hate baby blue, because you don't hate it. It was what you wanted, and I wanted to do anything for you on your big day. But now I feel like you wouldn't do the same for me, I asked a small, simple request from someone I thought was my friend, and I would have asked anyone in the same boat to do that. I feel like I was vilified, and I still don't think my request was a bad one. But I don't know. People can make mistakes sometimes. Bailey was again pretty shocked. I would be too, honestly. She understood where Addison was coming from, but the issue for Bailey was that she was a guest, not a bridesmaid, and Addison had basically said to her face that she didn't like her brand new tattoo. And this was before she was even invited to the wedding. And now Addison had just insulted her wedding colors and claimed to be supportive when she had missed all of the events. She wondered what she had to be forgiven for exactly, since she didn't even respond to the first direct message. Getting the tattoo? Telling her husband about it? She also wondered at how she was a close friend of Addison, when days ago Addison said she wasn't interested in being friends at all. Bailey felt like her olive branch had been thrown back in her face. Bailey ultimately decided to respond that night before bed. She explained that she thought the situation was different. Essentially, Addison was asking a guest, not a bridesmaid, to cover a permanent part of her body that she didn't like. She explained that she was trying to start over, but it was fine if Addison didn't want to be friends. She wished Addison the best, and then she decided that she would block Addison on Instagram because Bailey was feeling hurt and angry, and Addison had originally commented about the tattoo on that platform. The next morning, Addison sent a text to Danny. Addison said that she thought Bailey had probably blocked her number since she was blocked on Instagram, although Bailey didn't block her anywhere else. Addison said she was exhausted from the tension and drama and that she was tired of fighting. She never said she didn't want to be friends, but she was upset because some people just can't wait for forgiveness. Addison gave Bailey her best wishes, but then Addison removed herself from every group chat that Bailey was a part of, including one with all of their close college friends. Bailey was pretty annoyed about the message, which claimed Addison never said she didn't want to be friends, and claimed that Addison was tired from tension that Bailey had tried to let go. Bailey decided she was going to forget about it and try to move past the entire situation. Except for one problem. She's still going to the wedding. Bailey's husband Danny was the best man, and she didn't want to offend Ryan by not going at all, but now she has to decide what to wear. If she covers her tattoo, she's doing exactly what Addison rudely requested on a hot summer day in Texas. If she shows her arms, it would make a big statement, and it would be rude, and it would be on someone else's wedding day. June eventually rolled around. The wedding was at 5 p.m. in Ryan's parents' backyard. Bailey went shopping the week before and found a tan, lightweight dress with sleeves that covered her forearm tattoo. She didn't want to ruin anyone's wedding day, despite her annoyance, and she figured she'd try her best not to faint in the heat. The ceremony was hot, but it was also beautiful, with a small tent and hanging flowers. Addison wore an off-the-shoulder ball gown, and the ceremony was quick and easy, only lasting about 15 minutes. Bailey thought that Danny looked dashing next to Ryan, and even if she had to sit alone in the audience, she had a nice time. There were only about 20 guests, so the bride and groom decided to speak a bit with their guests during cocktail hour. Addison and Ryan passed near Bailey, and Addison smiled sweetly at the long sleeves that Bailey wore. That is, until they strolled closer, and Addison's eyes flicked down to Bailey's powder blue cowboy boots, the same color that Bailey's bridesmaids had worn. They were brand new and shining from her shopping trip the week before, and Bailey thought they looked nice with her beige dress. Addison's smile instantly dropped away, and Ryan looked down and said, "Hey, I like your blue boots." Addison's face started to flush, but Bailey thanked Ryan for the compliment, congratulated the couple, and left them alone for the rest of the night, focusing instead on dancing and having a good time with her husband Danny. A couple weeks later, Addison posted pictures of her wedding day on Facebook, and Bailey was happy to see that in a couple photos, she was there, proudly wearing her new favorite baby blue boots. And that is the story of Bailey's blue boots. Look, I'm not saying that if you dislike the bride of a wedding, that you should wear her least favorite color to it. But I think that if you can find confidence in a situation where someone has made you feel bad about yourself or your appearance, then honestly, you should go for it. Our personal style, our tastes, it's much more personal than I think people realize it is. And when someone insults that, it can feel like they're insulting you and insulting your personality and making you feel bad about yourself. And I am sure that all of us have experienced a time or an event where someone has made us feel bad about the way that we look, about our choices, about the way we choose to present ourselves. And that can feel really hurtful. But that doesn't mean that your taste or personal style should change. If anything, that type of request or that type of offense reflects more about that person than it does about you. I think that if you like those blue cowboy boots, then buy them. I think that if you like those crazy fuzzy earmuffs that cover your head, buy those. I think if you like your plaid leggings, even though your friend says that they're too bright, wear them. Because if they make you happy, that's all you're here to do. That's the whole point of personal fashion and personal taste. And if you get a tattoo and someone doesn't like it, but you like it, then who cares? That's all that matters. I think that fashion is a way for us to sort of say who we are without having to even speak. And sometimes we can use it to rebel as well. Like in this story, Bailey used her boots to rebel just a little by wearing her favorite color, which had been insulted, and she felt like it was a little moment for her that helped her gain confidence. For me, it would be anything and everything yellow. If someone said something like this to me, or if I was feeling upset, I would have to wear yellow. But to each their own. We all have that thing that makes us feel happy. We should do that thing. Anyway, what would you have done in this situation? Do you even agree that Bailey was in the right and Addison was in the wrong? Maybe you think that Addison was in the right and she had all the right to ask Bailey to cover her tattoo. Let me know on this week's Instagram post on Southern Grace 1, and I would be interested in hearing y'all's thoughts. Please subscribe to our podcast to listen to our weekly episodes and leave a review on iTunes so we can talk with more of you ladies. Remember to walk with empathy and kindness, and I will talk to you next week on Boots Over Heels, a Southern Grace clothing podcast where we understand Southern women because we are Southern women. Bye, ladies!